Well, yesterday there was a glitch in my computer, so I'm doing it today after I fixed the glitch. I have no idea what I'm doing with the computer. I just press buttons and something happens. I have no idea what. Anyway, we are on the Deborah story, and I let you know that it was one of my top five stories in the Bible. It's just so full of fun. It's hilarious, in fact, on the one hand, and serious on the other, because judges aren't doing what they're supposed to do. Starting with this story. I'm going to be using a map because it's going to be pertinent to our story. And so we have Israel from here to down here. Um, and we have mostly it's going to take place in the northern region of Israel, much far north, with Zebulun and Naphtali here. But all you need to know is they went north. So everything's in the north. The story is involves just the north of Israel, except at the beginning with Deborah. She's down here in the middle of Israel, in the hill country of Ephraim. That means the tribe of Ephraim's allotment. And then a little bit down here in the southern region. So we're going to be going back and forth, and I just want you to know this is north, middle, south, but it'll help you understand why certain aspects occur in the story. So let's start with God had told Moses in Exodus 3:8 that he was going to bring his people into a land of milk and honey. However, they disobeyed God during the time of the judges. And so, in fact, they get so bad off that they start serving and worshiping the gods of Canaan. The gods of the ites, I call them, the Hittites, the Perizzites, the Amalekites, whatever. The ites live in Canaan and they never remove them, so they succumb to their gods. And thus God punished his people by selling them into the hands of the enemy. And the story of Deborah, chapter 4 of Judges, starts out that way. The Barak / Deborah, the two of them make up the story of the third judge. And so what I want you to do as we read through this is that I want you to circle the word hand. Now, the word hand in the Bible means power. So if God sells them into the hand of a certain person, he's selling them into the power of that person. But I'm always glad when they use the word hand. That word hand in the Hebrew is yad, Y-A-D. So if you want to write that down, that's great. Okay? So circle the word hand as we do this story. And the people of Israel again did what was evil in the sight of Yahweh after Ehud died. And Yahweh sold them into the hand, here's your first hand, of Jabin, king of Canaan, who reigned in Hatzor. Hatzor is right up here in the north. Just remember that, in the north. So his main territory was up here in the northern part of Israel. And that's important to realize. The commander of his army was Sisera, who lived in Harosheth Hagoyim, or Harosheth of the Gentiles. I only need to know he's right up here nearby Jabin. That's all you need to know, up in the north. Then the people of Israel cried to Yahweh for help, for he, Sisera, had 900 chariots of iron. I want you to remember that. 900 chariots of iron. And he oppressed the people of Israel cruelly for 20 years. So, particularly the northern part was where he could reach, less so in the southern part, of course. The farther away you could get from Jabin and Sisera, the less control they had over you. Now Deborah, okay. One of the neat things about this story is that names mean something, and they play a part often in the story. And so Deborah means honeybee. So when they saw the word Deborah, they saw the word honeybee. Or when they heard the word Deborah, they heard the word honeybee. So we're going to call her honeybee. I want you to watch something that the author does with honeybee, because it is a strange phenomenon, because this is a strange phenomenon. Honeybee, and it says she was a woman prophetess. That's in the Hebrew. It's not here in the English because it's redundant. A prophetess means a woman. But the author is particularly pointing out that this prophetess is a woman. So he calls it a woman prophetess. Now watch. The wife of Lapidoth. Wife is the word for woman. And when it's used with a man's name, like woman of Lapidoth, it means wife of Lapidoth in the Hebrew. So we have honeybee, a woman prophetess, the woman of Lapidoth. Now, his name, her husband's name, is Lapidoth, which means lightning flashes. Now, this is going to play a part in our story. So then it says, she was judging. Yeah, twice we get the pronoun she. She was judging Israel at that time. She used to sit under the palm tree of honeybee. It's the palm tree of Deborah, but it's the palm tree of a honeybee. So you note that here the author over and over again points out that this is a woman. He can't get over it. She used to sit under the palm tree of honeybee between Ramah and Bethel. Now, where's that? That's right here in the middle, where you see a little bit of yellow maybe. And that's the hill country of Ephraim. So she must be an Ephraimite. Between Ramah and Bethel, in the hill country of Ephraim. And the people of Israel came to her for judgment. Okay, we're told that she is a judge. And she, the woman, is a woman prophet. Honeybee is a woman prophetess, and she is judging. Those are two different things right here that Deborah Honeybee is. She's both a prophetess and a judge. And the shock is that there's no other judges that are women. It is just this one. But not only is she a woman judge, she's a prophetess, a woman prophet. And there's no other prophet who is both prophet and judge except for Samuel. He's the only one who has that title. So she is extraordinary. We also know that later on Barak's going to come into the story, and he also is considered a judge. He's named with the other judges in the book of Hebrews, and he's a judge here in this story. Okay, the people of Israel came to her for judgment. Now, I have to share with you something. She's a judge. She was judging Israel, and Israelites were coming to her for judgment. That word judge and also judgment is the word shaphat in Hebrew. Remember that word shaphat in E. So I want you to turn with me to Psalm 19. Psalm 19 is a psalm of the Torah, and it tells us how wonderful the Torah is, the law of God. Psalm 19. Psalm 19, 9 and 10 says this: "The fear of Yahweh is clean, enduring forever. The judgments," I don't know what your Bible says. Sometimes my Bible says the rules. Others say the statutes or the commandments. But it is not that. It's shaphat. Judgments. The judgments of Yahweh are true and righteous altogether. Now watch what it says about the judgments of Yahweh. More to be desired than gold, even much fine gold. Sweeter also than honey, and the drippings of the honeycomb. Here's honeybee giving out the judgments of God that are sweeter than honey. Is that, see what's going on here? What do honeybees produce? Honey. But then it also talks here in verse 5, the palm tree of honeybee. And it's called the palm tree of honeybee because it gives off a sap that the people used to gather that was as sweet to them as honey. And in fact, they called it honey. Kind of like Vermont maple syrup. We get the syrup from the maple tree. Well, they also got a syrup from the Deborah tree that was like honey. Okay, so we have this woman, prophetess, who's also a judge. Her name is Honeybee, and as a honeybee, she gives off the sweet judgments of Yahweh that are sweeter than honey. Okay, in verse 6 it says this: she sent and summoned Barak. Now Barak means lightning. We already have Lapidoth, which means lightning flashes. Now we have a word that means lightning. So she sent and summoned lightning, the son of Abinoam, from Kadesh, Naphtali, and said to him, okay, he's from the north, nearby Jabin and Sisera. So he's up there. In fact, he's from Naphtali, which is right here. She sent and summoned lightning, the son of Abinoam, from Kadesh, Naphtali, and said to him, has not Yahweh, the God of Israel, commanded you? Go, gather your men to Mount Tabor. Take 10,000. Mount Tabor is right next door to Kadesh. It's a mountain in northern part of Israel. You notice now everything is taking part up here. And the prophetess, Deborah, honeybee, has called Barak down from Kadesh, Naphtali, to her country. And she's giving him a talking to. She's saying, I've told you this before, what God has said. He has said that you're to take 10,000 and gather your men at Mount Tabor, near in the northern part of Israel. Well, from the people, 10,000 people from Naphtali and the people of Zebulun. Those are the two tribes I've been talking about up here. There's Naphtali, there's Zebulun in the northern part. So all this is going to take place in the northern part of Israel. Now that's going to become important because that's going to give a reason why Deborah doesn't call all the people from all over to go behind lightning. She calls mainly Naphtali and Zebulun because they're living in the area where Jabin is king, where Sisera has his 900 chariots. So they are the ones who are most afflicted by the king, the enemy king. And so they would be the ones who would be willing to follow Barak and go to war with Jabin, aren't they? They're the very ones who are afflicted the most. So, and God had said, and I will draw out Sisera, the general of Jabin's army, to meet you by the river Kishon. The river Kishon is right below Mount Tabor. Just you come down Mount Tabor and go a short distance, and there's the river Kishon. God is going to draw him to the Kishon River. Sisera with his chariots and his troops, and I will sell him into your hand. There we have hand again, and that's important to this story. In fact, if you go through the whole book of Judges, you'll see hand, 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 over and over again. And in this story, it plays a particularly important part. So I will sell him into your hand. Lightning said to her, if you will go with me, I will go. But if you will not go with me, I will not go. And the only difference between the first line and the second line is the not. He's not going to go unless she goes. And she said, Deborah said, Honeybee said, I will surely go with you. Okay. Nevertheless, the road on which you are going will not lead you to glory. It's not going to lead him to glory. For Yahweh, says the second D, will sell Sisera into the hand, not of lightning, Barak, but into the hand of a woman. And here is the turning point, the whole story. His saying no to God. His not what he didn't want to go the first time God told him through Honeybee, and he's not going to go this time. God tells him through Honeybee. He says, I want you to go with me. So, what's going to happen? The glory is not going into his hands, but the glory will go into the hands of a woman. Now, we think, because we've just read the story up to this point, that that woman must be Deborah, right? Well, you're going to be shocked. Then Honeybee arose and went with Lightning to Kadesh. So she goes with Lightning up to Kadesh, up here in the northern part. And Lightning called out Zebulon. So he's obeying now. She's coming with him. He has to obey. Called out Zebulon and Naphtali to Kadesh, same place he is. And 10,000 men went up at his heels. In other words, footmen. Now remember, the enemy has 900 chariots, but all Lightning has are footmen. And Honeybee went up with him. Now, you probably noticed that there is a chiasm here, don't you? And the first thing I saw that made me think that this was a chiasm was the reversal of the two names Naphtali and Zebulon. That's in our first B and C. Do you see that? Naphtali, Zebulon. And then I saw later on Zebulon and Naphtali. And I said, oh, there must be a chiasm here. And there's a little story that goes with this. I was in seminary, and one of the students, a young girl, probably 26 or 27, came to me and she said, I keep hearing you talking about chiasms. Of what importance are chiasms? And I said, well, they tell you the important part of the story. It's the center part is the important part, but it also tells you oftentimes the turning point in a story. And she said, well, what does it mean when I see Naphtali and Zebulon and then Zebulon and Naphtali? I said, I've never looked at that. I'll go home and I'll find out. And I spent quite a bit of time figuring it out, but there was the chiasm that I have presented you. And the turning point in the whole story, right, is when Lightning, who doesn't act like Lightning, Lightning says, I will only go if you go. And then the glory does not go into his hand. It's going to go into the hand of a woman. So that's and I would really suggest that you maybe pause this or go back over it later and see how this chiasm works, because I've put it in dark print. What's going on here? It starts with a 10,000 and it ends with a 10,000. Then we have Naphtali and Zebulon, and we have Zebulon and Naphtali. And then he's going to sell, God is willing to sell Sisera into Lightning's hand. But after the turning point, he's going to sell Sisera into the hand of a woman. And of course, our middle point, where he says, I'm not going unless you go. Okay, at the end of it, our chiasm, we start again, only there's an interruption. We've been talking about Lightning and a honeybee, and now we have an interruption where someone new is introduced. And this is very important. These interruptions are very important because they give us other information that's going to help us understand what's going on in the story. So the Barak story is interrupted, and it says this. Now, Heber the Kenite had separated from the Kenites. Now, Kenites means iron workers. We've heard of iron before. There are 900 iron chariots, aren't there? Now he's a Kenite. Now I have to tell you about the Kenites, descendants of Hobab, or as we know him, Jethro, the father-in-law of Moses. Let's look at the Kenites in Exodus 18. I want you to go back to Exodus 18. When Jethro comes to Moses after Moses reaches Mount Sinai, and Jethro has Moses' wife. Moses left his wife down with her father while he was doing this whole thing of the Exodus, the Red Sea crossing. When he finally gets to Mount Sinai, Jethro comes and he says, okay, here's your wife. And as he was there, he finds out all the many wonderful things that Yahweh had done. So I want you to go to verse 8, 18:8. Then Moses told his father-in-law all that Yahweh had done to Pharaoh and to the Egyptians for Israel's sake, all the hardships that had come upon them on the way, and how Yahweh had delivered them. And Jethro rejoiced for all the good that Yahweh had done to Israel, in that Yahweh had delivered the Israelites out of the hand of the Egyptians. And Jethro said, blessed be Yahweh, who has delivered you out of the hand of the Egyptians and out of the hand of Pharaoh, and has delivered the people from under the hand of the Egyptians. Now I love this verse, now I, Jethro, know that Yahweh is greater than all gods, because in this affair Egypt dealt arrogantly with the people of Israel. Now I know that Yahweh is the God above all gods. He's the God of the heavens, God of the earth, isn't he? This is Jethro's moment of faith, and it's one of the most beautiful stories of faith in the Old Testament. Now I know. He was a pagan. He was a priest of a pagan god, and yet now he gives that all up. So from now on, his family, the Kenites, are going to follow God. And in fact, they come to, in Judges, the first chapter, it tells us, they make a covenant with the Israelites and live with the Israelites. Now this is many, many years later, at least 40, if not more, years later, and it says in Judges 1:16, and the descendants of the Kenite, Moses' father-in-law, went with the people of Judah from the city of the palms into the wilderness of Judah. And they went and settled with the people. So they settled down here in Judah's region with the Judahites, the people of the tribe of Judah. And they settled there. And Judah allowed them because they had made a covenant with Yahweh through their father, Jethro. Okay, so that's the Kenites. Now watch what happens in this story, because Heber is a Kenite. The Kenites have made a pact, a covenant, an agreement with God's people, and they settled there. The Kenites settled there. But watch what happens. Now Heber the Kenite had separated, we can say had broken apart from the Kenites. So it's Heber, And we'll later learn that it's his whole household, which probably included clan members besides his immediate family and his servants, the descendants of Hobab, the father-in-law of Moses, and had pitched his tent. So he separates from Hebrew. He's down here. And he pitched his tent. He travels right through Israel, up north. Guess where? To Kadesh. Now, we have to ask ourselves why he pitched his tent as far away as the oak of Zaanannim, which is near Kadesh, and that's near the birthplace of lightning, Barak. He settles there. Now, why would he settle there? Well, what motivates most people most of the time? Money. And the chariots are made of iron, and he's an iron worker. So he goes up north. He breaks from his family, and breaks away with his household, and he goes up north to Kadesh. And when that's Heber and his clan, told Sisera that lightning, Barak, the son of Abinoam, had gone up to Mount Tabor. Whoa, he's become a spy. He's telling the enemy where lightning is, and all his 10,000 men from Naphtali and Zebulun, where they are. And so Sisera, finding out from Heber what was going on at Mount Tabor, Sisera called out his chariots, his 900 chariots of iron, and all the men who were with him from Harosheth Hagoyim. Remember, that's the place where Sisera comes from, to the river Kishon. Remember I told you the river Kishon was just below Mount Tabor, where lightning and his 10,000 footmen are. When they told Sisera that Barak, lightning, had gone up to Mount Tabor, Sisera called out his chariots, his 900 chariots of iron, and all the men who were with him from Harosheth Hagoyim to the river Kishon. So they're going down to the bottom of Mount Tabor where lightning is. So now the interruption is done. We've got some background material. We heard about Deborah and honeybee and lightning, and how Deborah had to nudge lightning to do his thing. There's an interruption about Heber, the Kenite, and the Kenites had a covenant, but he and his clan break away from those people and head north where the money is. So back to Deborah and Barak. And Honeybee, wife of lightning flashes, remember that, said to lightning, "Get up, for this is the day in which Yahweh has given Sisera into your hand." This is a fourth time hand is mentioned. Does not Yahweh go out before you? It's Yahweh who's going before you. How can you fail? So lightning went down from Mount Tabor with 10,000 men following. Did you hear that? Lightning went down Mount Tabor. You see, do you hear that? It's not Barak went down Mount Tabor, although it is, but he's lightning. So it gives you a little glimpse of what's happening at Mount Tabor. Lightning went down Mount Tabor with 10,000 men following, and Yahweh routed Sisera and all his chariots and all his army before lightning. Now, that word routed is a very interesting word. It's used at the Red Sea incident when God routed the Egyptians. And remember what had happened? There was a thunder and lightning storm, we learned from the Psalms, that was going on, that made the chariots not be able to go straight and or correctly. So Yahweh routed Sisera this time. And you think back to, ooh, lightning went down the mountain. You know what? Honeybee, wife of lightning flashes, doesn't go down with him. This is his moment of faith when she stays up there on the mountaintop. Wife of lightning flashes stays on the mountain while lightning goes down the mountain. Are you getting the picture? It's a play on words, isn't it? Or play on names. And Yahweh routed Sisera and all his chariots and all his army before lightning by the edge of the sword. And Sisera got down from his chariot. Why? Why would he get off of the thing that would speedily get him away? And fled away on foot. And we're going to find out that he fled away this way. And watch this. And Barak, or lightning, so lightning pursued the chariots and the army of Harosheth Hagoyim. Sisera's army is pursued by lightning, Harosheth Hagoyim, and all the army of Sisera fell by the edge of the sword. Not a man was left. So the chariots, what's happening with the chariots? Well, if we've been listening with Hebrew ears, we've heard that lightning came down the mountain. And Honeybee, wife of lightning flashes, were on top of the mountain. And the wheels do not help Sisera's army because, are you getting the reason yet? Well, we'll get the reason even better in the poem that follows. Okay, an interruption to the Barak story again. An aside, something that's pertinent to the story, but is not the story of lightning and Sisera. Verse 17. But Sisera fled away on foot. He left behind his chariot. How come? To the tent of Jael. Finally, a woman. Maybe this is the woman talked about. Into the hands of a woman. And her name means mountain goat. Jael. Jael's name means mountain goat. So when people in Israel heard the name Jael, they heard the name mountain goat. The wife of Heber the Oh well. She's the wife of Heber, the Kenite. She can't be our deliverer, can she? Wait, watch what it says. For there was peace between Jabin, the king of Hatzor, and the house, or the household, of Heber the Kenite. So it's more than just Heber who went north. He had a wife, he had a household, which would include probably other clan members and servants. And mountain goat, came out to meet Sisera and said to him, Turn aside, my lord, turn aside to me. Do not be afraid. So he had run there, by the way. You know, the army had gone one way, and Sisera went exactly the opposite way. Good commander, isn't he? Sticks with his men, will die with his men. Nope, that's not Sisera. Ran the other way. to someone that he thought would definitely help him because there was a covenant uh, between um, uh, the king Jabin and um, and um, Heber. Okay, so turn aside to me. Do not be afraid. So he turned aside to her tent, into the tent. He trusts her, you know. And she covered him with a rug. It was a heavy duty kind of blanket, but heavier than a blanket. And he, to keep him warm. And he said to her, "Please give me a little water to drink, for I am thirsty." So she's been so good to him. She's put him in her tent, covered him up. So she opened a skin of milk. Whoa! What do mountain goats produce? We know that honeybees produce honey. And now we see that a mountain goat gives milk, and gave him a drink and covered him. And he said to her, "Stand at the opening of the tent, and if any man comes and asks you, 'Is anyone here?' say no." But Mountain Goat, the wife of Heber, took a tent peg and took a hammer in her hand. Then she went softly, so that's the fifth time a hand is mentioned. Then she went softly to him and drove the peg into his temple until it went down into the ground. Ugh. While he was lying fast asleep from weariness. So he died. So now we know why she gave him milk. What does milk do? Makes you sleepy. Remember when you gave milk to your child and the child fell asleep? And what do you do at night when you really want to sleep? You warm up some milk and drink it. And that's exactly what Mountain Goat was doing. She was giving her milk. Now the interruption is over, and we're back to the story in verse 22. And behold, as lightning was pursuing Sisera, Mountain Goat went out to meet him and said to him, "Come, and I will show you the man whom you are seeking." So Lightning went in her tent, and there lay Sisera, dead, with the tent peg in his temple. Barak is merely staring at Sisera, and the glory went to Mountain Goat, for Sisera was sold into the hand of a woman. This interruption that we read here is, in effect, cuts out Barak from receiving the glory of defeating Sisera. Yep, he gets none of that glory. She gets it. He's left staring. So, on that day, God subdued Jabin, king of Canaan, before the people of Israel. And the hand, this is the sixth time, of the people of Israel pressed harder and harder against Jabin, the king of Canaan. King of Canaan, until they destroyed Jabin, king of Canaan. Notice they say that 3 times. He's destroyed. He's out of the way. But did you also notice that the very beginning of the story and the very end of the story form an inclusio around the story? Because it begins in the first verse, and the people of Israel did what was right, what was evil in the sight of Yahweh after Ehud died. And Yahweh sold them into the hand of Jabin, king of Canaan. And now it's Jabin, king of Canaan, was subdued by the hand of Israel. A reversal of how it started. And it was all really because of these two women, Jael, mountain goat, who produced milk, and honeybee, Deborah, who produced honey, the honey of God's judgments. And so between these two women, they saved the land of milk and honey. You like that ending? What a play. I mean, if you had to tell a history story, this is a way to tell it, where there's laughter involved because of all the puns that are going on in the story. Now, I want to do one more thing, and that is to show you a poetic way of describing why Sisera and his men lost. And so it says this in chapter 5 is a poem about the story. And it says, in the day that Deborah and Barak, son of Abinoam, sang this song, when the leaders took the lead in Israel, when the people answered the call to war, praise Yahweh. Hear, O kings, pay attention, O rulers. I will sing to Yahweh. I will sing to Yahweh, God of Israel. Now watch what it says. O Yahweh, when you departed from Seir, when you marched from Edom's plains, the earth shook. The heavens poured down rain. The heavens poured down, the clouds poured down rain. The mountains trembled. Are you hearing this? What is this? What was going on? You've heard of the storm theophany. Oh, the way that God appears to his people for either deliverance or the enemy for judgment. And it goes on, the mountains trembled before Yahweh, the one of Sinai. She's even referring back to Sinai. Remember Sinai? Where there was a storm theophany there? She's saying, we had that storm theophany right here. The one that God had also at Sinai. Before Yahweh, the one of Sinai. Before Yahweh, God of Israel. So we have a storm theophany at Mount Tabor, don't we? Just like we had one at Mount Sinai. And she, as she's speaking forth this poem, speaks of what happened as like Sinai. Well, next week we're going to talk a little bit more about the hand. And so I come back and find out how it plays a part in the whole story. Okay? Don't forget the story of Honeybee and Mountain Goat who protected, delivered the land of milk and honey. Come on, where is it? Oh, it's back here.
What's that?
I was looking for something, that's all.